Hello, I'm Ron Wilson and welcome back to PD Sessions. The RBA held interest rates steady in September after it deemed Australia's economy was strong enough, even in the face of falling commodity prices and slowing global growth. Internationally, Germany and France agreed to work together on a solution to the Eurozone debt crisis, while the US Federal Reserve said it's considering taking more action to boost the world's largest economy. In other news, legislation for MySuper was passed by the House of Representatives, while ASIC released consultation papers on two key aspects of the FOFA reforms. Vishal Tekchandani has the details.
The RBA held the cash rate at 3.5% for the third month in a row. The central bank said a rate cut wasn't necessary as the Australian economy was coping with the recent slide in resource prices and softer global growth. Furthermore, it said earlier rate cuts were still working their way through the economy, and with inflation under control and growth close to trend, the RBA board deemed that rates were at the right level. ABS figures showed GDP rose at a 3.7% annual rate in the June quarter, down from 4.4% in the previous quarter. Growth was led mainly by mining investment and supported by household consumption. Internationally, Germany and France agreed to create a joint policy-making body to foster greater economic integration in the Eurozone and structure a new banking supervision regime. The body would also aim to produce policies on how to deal with troubled countries including Greece, Spain, and Italy. The French-German accord signals that relations between the two European powerhouses are on the mend after months of squabbling in dealing with the debt crisis. French President François Hollande, who led a revolt against German Chancellor Angela Merkel's push for austerity, conceded that a strong Franco-German relationship was key to Europe's reorientation. Across the Atlantic, the US Federal Reserve signaled it is contemplating new action to strengthen economic and job growth in the world's largest economy. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke said the central bank is considering more asset purchases in light of the daunting economic challenges facing the United States. His comments came as US GDP slowed to a 1.7% annual rate in the second quarter, while the unemployment rate rose to 8.3% in July. Moving across to Asia, China's economy may see a modest rebound in the second half, following an improvement in key economic data. The Conference Board's leading economic index for China increased 0.7% to 236.4 in July, following no change in the prior month. The report indicates China's economy, which has slowed for 6 straight quarters, may be stabilizing even after exports tumbled in July. In government news, legislation for MySuper, the low-cost and simple default super product, has been passed by the House of Representatives following 2 key amendments. The first amendment is a deferral of the date from which it will become mandatory for employers to make employee contributions to a fund offering a MySuper product to 1 January 2014 from 1 October 2013. The second change is that MySuper providers who offer a life cycle strategy will be able to charge up to 4 different investment fees instead of just the one. Life cycle investing takes into account the member's age in determining the appropriate asset allocation of a fund. Meanwhile, ASIC has released consultation papers on 2 key aspects of the FOFA reforms, the best interests duty and scaled advice. CP 182 discusses the best interests duty and contains a draft update to RG 175. It covers 4 key areas: acting in the best interests of the client, satisfying the safe harbor test, which refers to a series of steps that advisors can take to demonstrate they have satisfied the best interests duty, providing appropriate personal advice, and prioritizing the interests of the client. As for scaled advice, ASIC's proposed guidance in this area indicates that all advice is scaled to some extent. Advice is either less complex or more complex along a continuous spectrum. In general, the same rules, including the best interests duty, apply to all personal advice, regardless of the scope, and that it's possible to provide less complex advice in a way that's consistent with the best interests duty and the law generally. Superfund trustees will be able to offer insurance services through general insurance companies rather than purely through life insurance groups, following changes to be made by APRA. The regulator said it will amend Prudential Standard SPS 250 to reflect that trustees can offer general insurance through all licensed insurance providers. APRA said it changed its mind after industry feedback persuaded it of the negative effects on competition. In industry news, the Financial Services Council launched a new life insurance framework that contains a tiered commission clawback provision and responsibility period for advisors. Key components of the framework are, where an advised policy lapses within 3 years of commencement, a 3-year advisor responsibility period will apply. A tiered commission clawback provision will be introduced as follows: 100% of remuneration paid by an insurer to an advisor if the policy lapses within the first year, 75% of remuneration paid by an insurer if the policy lapses within the second year, and 50% of remuneration paid by an insurer if the policy lapses within the third year. And this self-regulatory framework is effective from 1 July 2013. FSC Chief Executive John Brogden said the framework is designed to shed life risk churn, make life insurance more affordable, and reduce underinsurance.